What up? So, I'm Aaron. I've been living in China for 5 months now. I work as an English teacher. I was born and raised in Canada. Basically, I wanted to make a video today pretty much telling you about what life is like here for me. I'm just going to talk about the factors, how it's different from like Western countries, and then you can decide if that's a pro or a con for you. Some good tea. 1. Food. I love to eat, and so this is where we have to start. The food here, phenomenal. There's a lot of flavor. Even between different regions of China, you get a lot of different kinds of food. If Chinese food is your thing, like, yeah, no duh, like, you're gonna get good Chinese food here. So, one thing I have noticed is that a lot of the cuts of meat are very different from what I'm used to back home. For example, I've had chicken feet, pork legs, tripe. Tripe personally isn't my thing. I've had pigeon. It's a lot better than it sounds actually. Like low-key, next time I'm just walking in a park, that's all I'm gonna say. My only complaint is that there's a lack of variety. Back in Canada, like if you want Mexican food, if you want Indian food, if you want Italian food, if you want anything, like you're able to find it, no problem. Here, the thing is that there's only Chinese food. Basically, if I have a craving for a certain type of food, like if I really want Indian food, for example, it's really difficult to find authentic Indian food. You might be able to find some like fusion, like Chinese Indian mix, right? They'll say it's Indian, but I know it's fusion. And if you want authentic stuff, you're gonna have to either travel kind of far, pay really high prices, or there's gonna be just like limited selection. If you do like trying a lot of different food like all the time, there's gonna be some limited options. Okay, that was a lot of talk about food. You can tell I do like food. Okay, next is transportation. I live in Shenzhen, by the way, so it's about 17 million people in population. Really massive city. We've got the metro system, right? The metro, phenomenal. Buses, there's at least, I'm gonna guess, like 200 bus routes. Like you see buses everywhere. It's insane. There's also taxis all over the place. You can get Didi. They don't have Uber, but Didi is an alternative to Uber, but much cheaper. I'm gonna say about like 4 or 5 times cheaper than Canada. Oh, I really love the city bikes that they have around here. They're all over the place. You literally just scan the QR code and use your WeChat or Alipay. It's just such a nice way to see the city, and I feel for myself personally as a foreigner who's here to actually see the sights, it's such a lovely way to get around the city. It's the piece of a walk, but still you get to see quite a lot in a short amount of time. They're very, very affordable. You could have it for an hour and pay less than $1 USD. That's been my favorite thing about transportation in the city. It's a huge bustling city, so everything is very, very efficient. There's no shortage of taxis. The trains come maximum every 4 minutes or 5 minutes. I've never waited 10 minutes for a bus. Okay, this is probably a big one you're wondering about, the language barrier. If, like me, you don't speak any Chinese, this is going to be the toughest part of coming here. Honestly, it's very, very difficult. Especially when you first get here and you have no idea how anything works. It's going to be very, very uncomfortable. It's going to be disorienting. That's just how it is. If you want to travel, that's kind of a built-in factor. If you want to get outside your comfort zone and experience a new culture, it just comes as part of the deal. This experience in particular was especially difficult because Chinese and English share 0 commonalities, right? You just have to be comfortable with playing charades with people. Your body language and your hand movements, your hand gestures are gonna go a long way. If you wanna get what you wanna get, you gotta be willing to put that effort in. Basically, the Translate app on my phone has been my best friend. I just use the regular Apple Translate app, that one right there. And it does pretty well, to be honest. You can type stuff in, like people can actually like type to you, as long as you have the Chinese keyboard on your phone. and you can take pictures of stuff. So you can take a picture and it will translate the Chinese text for you. Or you can use a screenshot if you're using an app or something. So the Apple native translator is good enough. Google Translate is not going to work because no Google products work in China unless you have a VPN or something. So just be aware of that too. Oh, that's kind of a good idea. If I make a video about all the apps that are really helpful about being in China. So if you see something on the screen, I have made that video. If not, I apologize for just being too brilliant and having ideas that are way better than that. Or being lazy. Yeah, my bad. Overall though, I will say that as a foreigner, people are more understanding when you don't speak the language. They're honestly really sweet. Like they find me charming. I'm like this little puppy. They're like, oh, he's trying to communicate. People have been like very understanding and helpful, and they're very willing to work with me. They're very cooperative. I cannot speak. Okay, that kind of leads me into looks or appearances. There's so few foreigners in Shenzhen. I've heard that Shanghai is a lot more diverse, but here I can go days at a time without seeing another foreigner, like just Chinese people everywhere. People kind of stare at me sometimes because it's kind of rare for them to see. They don't mean anything by it, right? But yeah, you do get looks. At first, it kind of made me uncomfortable on the metro or like walking down the street. Like people will kind of look at you. Once in a while, you will get someone who like is walking by and they're like, holy crap, like what the hell is that dude doing here? It makes my day a little bit. Yeah, adults are pretty subtle. Kids have no sense of like decorum or subtlety. They will stare at you and they will point and they will say like, Mom, Dad, look, it's a foreigner. But yeah, it's not, don't take it personally if people stare at you. It's totally normal. Okay, entertainment. I'm not like an alcoholic or anything, like, but being here, I feel like one. The culture isn't really into like clubbing or partying. It's just not really a thing here. Like some people do, of course. It's just kind of more woven into the Western culture than over here. So I've noticed that a lot more people have like just very wholesome hobbies. When I ask them, oh yeah, I'm into photography, I like go for walks in the park, I do cooking, I go and do yoga, like, you know, like just very family friendly stuff. It's not like I'm a party animal, like, but once in a while, yeah, I like to go out dancing, I like to go like drinking with my friends. And I think over here, if you're gonna drink with people, it's more common for it to be at someone's home and you're not getting like absolutely like plastered the same way some people would back home. The point isn't to get drunk, it's just kind of like a side thing that's also happening while you're doing your thing. Anyways, yeah, I promise I'm not a degenerate. Do you like my shirt, by the way? This is kind of a difficult point to make when I'm wearing this shirt. Okay, safety. Safety is obviously number one. If a place isn't safe, it's not worth talking about the food, the transportation, the entertainment, anything like that, because you're concerned for your actual well-being. I've been to maybe 4 different cities in China. I've never felt unsafe, to be honest. Just keep your wits about you, be smart. Try not to look like a lost puppy and make yourself an easy target for somebody who might be thinking of trying to steal from you or like something like that. That applies to anywhere in the world. That being said, I've never had any problems with feeling unsafe. Yeah, I've never really felt that. Everywhere you go, there's like security or police around. I feel a little bit more uncomfortable about the police being everywhere, to be honest. Like it just feels kind of weird. I know I'm not doing anything wrong, right? But for example, so this happened to me one time where I was vlogging, the sun was setting like just right over the horizon there. It was beautiful. There's a lake behind this building. So I'm taking a video of the sunset and these two guards come up. They start kind of like yelling at me in Chinese, and I realize that this is some kind of like government military facility that I've been recording. It's just times like that where I have to be like kind of cognizant of, could somebody interpret this as me doing something wrong? Because I don't speak the language to be able to get myself out of that situation. Kind of sucks that you have to be so careful, but it's just kind of the reality. Like, if you want to enjoy the food, if you want to meet the people, if you want to like see the sights, like this is something that you have to just kind of deal with. Yeah, that's the only stuff that I would have to say about the safety aspect. Okay, meeting people. So China is very ethnically homogenous, right? Like there's just basically Chinese people. Where I grew up, there's black people, white people, brown people, Asians, like people from everywhere. Here, it's kind of difficult to meet other expats. If you speak some Chinese, you're gonna have a phenomenal time. It'll be very easy to make friends. But if you don't speak the language and you're trying to find like your community, it's gonna be kind of tough. There are groups that you can join. There are areas where all the foreigners kind of meet up. Making friends isn't gonna happen by accident. Usually I'm pretty good at making friends, but my hours are kind of weird, and so to maintain friendships with people, especially in the big city, is kind of difficult, to be honest. If you make an effort and if you really put yourself out there, like it's definitely possible. I do know people who have had like great experiences in that regard. It's just, for me, it's been pretty tough. Also, in terms of the social aspect, if you're watching this in English, then you're probably coming from a Western country, which means that your loved ones are gonna be really far away. That's definitely one of the biggest challenges of being over here. Between here and my hometown is a 12-hour time difference. So I have this like very short window. All the other times of the day, either my family or me are sleeping, and so just during that morning or night period is pretty much your chance to get in touch with the people that you want to stay in touch with, because it's very, very easy to just kind of get caught up in your day-to-day, and then weeks go by and you haven't talked to your mom or your dad or your sister, your brother, whoever. You gotta prioritize your relationships. If you want people to still be in your life, then you're gonna have to make an extra effort. That's just the reality of it. Like I said, if you're gonna come here, these are some of the challenges that a lot of people don't think of or underestimate when they're moving all the way to China. Cost of living, to be honest, I think it'll depend a lot from what country you're coming. It's really gonna come down to the currency exchange. My Canadian dollar is worth about 5 RMB, and so I found that the prices are very, very reasonable here. Not like cheap. It depends what you're looking for. So for example, if I'm looking to buy shoes or like clothes from brands that I'm familiar with, any sort of tech product, new iPhone, if you're gonna get a new camera, those are all gonna be like the exact same prices as Western countries. Things like food, like transportation, like your rent, your day-to-day expenses are going to be more affordable if you're from a country who has similar buying power to Canada. Considering I live in a tier 1 city, it's got 17 million people, I'm paying 4,700 RMB per month for my rent, which to me, that's like a steal. I live in such a busy neighborhood. I'm right by the metro. I'm literally less than a 5-minute walk from my workplace. And to be honest, that's quite expensive. Like a lot of my coworkers pay 1,000 RMB less than me. Shenzhen is a little bit more expensive. If you go somewhere like Chongqing, for example, you'd be paying half that for sure. And for context, I rent a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm not sure how many square meters it is, but you can check out my video decorating my apartment if you want to get a sense for how big the place is. Oh, see that? Look at that. Little shameless plug in there. Yeah, if you want a tour, you can check that out. I think overall that it's had a lot of ups and downs. Like I said, it can get very lonely. I'm not a big fan of my job, to be honest, so that part has affected my lifestyle a lot. I feel like I've had a lot of growth here. All of the things that you take for granted in your daily life, you speak the language where you understand the culture, not having those things as a given really puts you outside your comfort zone. I'm not gonna lie, there are gonna be days that are like you just feel depressed, man, because it takes so much energy to just do basic things like try to send somebody something in the mail. It goes from like a tiny errand to something where you actually have to problem solve and use critical thinking. If you're thinking of doing something similar to me, it's definitely going to take a toll some days. But at the same time, I feel like I'm growing so much with those challenges and finding out more about myself. Like when you see all these like basic assumptions being questioned, you start to understand yourself a lot more. Overall, really difficult, but definitely a positive experience. Hopefully this video was helpful to you if you're thinking of moving here or even visiting here for a shorter amount of time. Like, these are kind of some of the factors that you want to consider. I hope I got everything that you're wondering. If you have some more questions, leave them in the comments. I read all the comments. I have like 30 subscribers, so like I'll definitely just answer your question. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. I'm Aaron. You can go your entire life without ever. Okay, I'm getting off track. So like, right? Yeah.